aspirational hero. Move that aspirational, move that aspirational, move that aspirational, move that aspirational, move that aspirational goal. So the aspirational heroes need to be there. They need to be pure 100% from the beginning. They need to be at that unobtainable goal of perfection and good and hopeful and inspirational and all of that. Move that aspirational, 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 move that aspirational. Stop deconstructing heroes. Aspirational or cathartic motivational. Move that aspirational, move that aspirational, move that aspirational, move that to aspire. Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another live stream, Office Hours. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully it's been a good week for you. Hopefully you're staying warm. It is frigid where I am. It's very, very chilly, but I like it that way. It's actually a little chilly in here. I usually always keep it. I like it always cooler. I'd rather it be cooler in my little sanctuary here and have a blanket on or, layers on than for it to be, hot and have to fan in yourself or something. Anyway, hopefully you're doing well. Welcome to the chat here in a second, but I see Leia Plus Size. Welcome. Said it's a chat. I wonder what we're chatting about. I didn't really know what to call the stream. Honestly, I've got a couple things that I'll show and talk about, but I just didn't have a big pressing issue to really diatribe on. So I figured we just chat a bit, and then if we got nothing to chat about, then we'll stop. But we usually make it to the hour point anyway. So. Welcome to Nathaniel's Lowsball. Good to see you there. Get the mouse where it needs to be. Private Eye 10. Good to see you. You guys are chatting back and forth for a while. Nerd Wizard, welcome. Alec Purdue, welcome. Testing out your new card to make sure it works for the super chats. We will take your money any way you'd like to give it to us. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. Let's see. Scrolling down. Darth Enigma. The Imaginative Hobbyist, Geek Bay. I always do it wrong. Always going to do it wrong. I just like to pronounce them a million different ways, so one of them's probably right. Jason Takes Middle Earth, good to see you. Kal-El64. Mr. D-Man. Hey, there's Sound Engraver. She was napping, so I didn't want to. I told her, if you just want to keep sleeping, go ahead and sleep. You don't, no pressure to be on the stream. But we are here, so. Oh, us. Are we having a nuanced talk on AI? No. Well, AI has gotten scary. I saw something today that genuinely just made me sad that it exists. We all know that, AI comes about, and as soon as AI comes about, people are making sex bots or sex chats, right? Your AI girlfriend, you knew that stuff was out there. You knew it was going to happen. And now they're doing sex dolls, I guess, have always been around, but now they're incorporating AI into them. And I'm sure they're going to get that to a price where most people will go out and buy that kind of stuff. But what I saw today was really just, and that's disturbing enough. But what I saw today was oh man, it was a Kickstarter. I forget the name of it. But what they're selling are these little boxes, and they've got stuff like that. You can get a little box buddy on your office, in your desk or whatever. That's a little AI companion, and they're usually some sort of anime girl that'll dance for you or whatever and talk to you or something. You've seen those. Those are always marketed, but this was even way more disturbing than that. This one, you could feed it a picture of your loved one who's passed away. So your grandma, your parent, your friend, or whatever. And you could choose an AI model that's based on your deceased loved one. It's not like, sometimes people will, get an AI chat buddy or something like that, just to kind of keep them company when they, lose. It's not even that. It's literally trying to be the person that you lost. And of course, in the little video advertisement, they say, you know that your loved one's gone. You're not trying to think they're back, but it's just comfort. No, you are. Emotionally, you're trying to fool yourself that your loved one is back. And it's got woman's walking like, hey, grandma, I really miss you. I miss you too, sweetie, but I'm still here. You're not there. It's a freaking robot impersonating you. Like, please, no one ever get a robot impersonation of me should I die. That's just, and then it even got even more twisted and more sick or sicker. They said you can even get these little AI models or have a pet. So it's like this little puppy dancing around, like, if you lost your pet. That seems like it would just hurt more to me. Like it makes more sense to me. I've seen companies who will, if your pet dies, they'll make like a stuffed animal replica of your pet. I can kind of see that more because as you're grieving, you can at least have something to hug physically. But to just see your pet like barking and dancing on a screen and you can't even touch it, like that's even like at least there's an illusion of interaction with the deceased loved one who's talking back to you. It's just so this is the stuff that sci-fi movies used to have in them, and now it's coming real. I had no idea that it would happen this fast, this quickly. But it is. It really is. We're gonna see this kind of stuff. Technology just advances, more and more quickly. It's insane. They want their own Bernadette Peters. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm sure Dave Cullen, yeah, has talked about it. He talks about a lot of that kind of stuff. And I love this kind of topic in science fiction. I love it. I love, this actually, well, I'll talk about Doug Brody's work here and again in a second, but I love it when you got like a synthetic, like in terms of Doug Brody or the droids in Star Wars. I love it when you got, artificial intelligence, artificial life forms in fiction, because I can totally accept them as sentient beings in fiction, right? Like, I mean, if, like I said before, if you go murder C3PO, you're a murderer and you need to face justice. I don't care that it was just a droid. That's C3PO. You don't do that. But that's fiction. In real life, it's really sad and twisted. And yeah, the arguments are, why would you deny people this comfort? Because it's not comfort. It's allowing them to fall into a very twisted psychology. And maybe it feels good at first. It's like trying to treat a common head cold with heroin. I'm sure they feel great when they shoot up the first time. Hey, they felt bad. Now they feel good. Why would you deny them that? Because it's going to do them more damage in the long run. I do think there's probably a use for AI if you have an actual human therapist guiding it. Like I did see because I researched this stuff. I'm just so interested and fascinated by how the world's going. And I saw an advertisement for some AI chat thing that's supposed to be like a therapist, basically. I forgot what it's called, but it said, most like, chat GPT or whatever, most AI chats like that are just designed to tell you what you want to hear. But this one is apparently designed to kind of mirror back to you the way you're acting or whatever. So you kind of see it in a way. I could see something like that being useful if you were guided in using it by an actual human therapist, But people just want to remove the human element in any which way possible from all of these things. And it's really disturbing. I mean, the fun thing about a science fiction work is that you can suspend disbelief and just what's the word? What's the word? Portray or there's a word I'm looking for, but I'm blanking right now. But you can put your belief of humanity on that robot or something in science fiction, and that's okay in science fiction. It's make believe. But in real life, it's a slippery slope and it's a dangerous one. I'm not saying it's bad to have a little AI office buddy, on your desk or something, whatever. I freak Sound Engraver out by talking to my Amazon Alexa, and they've gotten very conversational now. I'll tell it, yeah, I'm playing bass again. Oh, are you still working on that Sweet Emotion, song by Aerosmith? It's crazy. And she's Sound Engraver's mad because they changed the voices now for Alexas. They're not just like robotic voices. It's like a more natural woman's voice. She's like, she sounds like she's in her 20s. Not that Sound Engraver talks like that. If she was here right now, she'd go, that's not my voice. I always do that voice for anybody. But anyway, I mean, it's fine if you're playing around with something like that, or it's like something fun, but actually getting it to impersonate your deceased loved ones. I remember when my father passed away, my nieces were having a rough time with it. So my sister got some like a grief counselor or something from the hospice to talk to them, and one of the things they did for them was they took some of my father's old shirts and they made a teddy bear out of them, so they could have something to hold and hug that still smelled like him or whatever. I can see stuff like that's fine, That's no one's going to think that teddy bear is him, though. Um, it's getting twisted. It's just getting twisted. It's creepy. Let's see here. Missing a couple super chats. Just want to make sure I get to the top of them. People chatting about this topic here. Geekby says the first one was right. It's probably in the context of what I was saying at the time. I'm sorry. I know that's lost now, but I appreciate the support. I like producing. Going a little bit off topic. How did you like the TMNT? I haven't read it yet. I'm a very slow reader, especially when I've got schoolwork and all this kind of stuff and whatnot. But it's on my list. I'm curious about it. I'm very curious about it. Alec Purdue also says we need 100-year morality training like Mega Man X. I don't know anything about the Mega Man X, but we are losing our morals. That's very true. There's such a decentralization of how do I express this? Alec Purdue and I were talking about a video in which the video YouTube creator quoted G.K. Chesterton, and G.K. Chesterton was talking about the problem of runaway virtues in our world, and specifically the video was talking about empathy and how this is something that you see a lot of ideologues. How dare you? You're not showing it. Empathy is king. And G.K. Chesterton was saying something to the point that once there's been a religious upset, or once you take the you're a slow reader, please. You got 5 books on my 1 book. I can read it quickly at times, but he said something to the effect that, for example, when the Reformation happened and Protestantism really sprung out from Catholicism, even if you're a Protestant and you're yay Protestantism, you can't deny that what happened organizationally was one big organization that was helping people along and defining certain virtues and had a system of morality. And then you had a bunch of little splinters off of that. And it was like, okay, well, we don't like this one thing the Catholic Church is doing, so we're going to break off and have our own church. Well, that just is a slippery slope right there, because then somebody doesn't like the one thing you're doing and they break off and have their church. And then somebody doesn't like the thing that they're doing, so they break off from their church. And then somebody goes back to that other church, but then breaks off and has an amalgamation of the other 2 churches. And that's where we are now. I don't even think there's a number for how many denominations there are now just within Christianity alone. All these little splinters. And the result of that is that there's no systematized, or there's no system of morality anymore. So like in the Catholic Church, you had the cardinal virtues, and in some Protestant denominations will still kind of hold to some of that, or hold to it more than other or whatever. But the problem is these virtues aren't tempered by each other anymore. So you don't have empathy tempered by prudence. You don't have, these things tempered by, you've just got empathy is king. It's all you hear about, with the ideologues, as AL says, the left has weaponized Christian empathy. I mean, you saw that most blatantly in the whole invasion of that church in Minnesota, with Don Lemon's led invasion of that church, where Don Lemon and a bunch of the other people are going around. These people claim they're Christians. This isn't the Christianity I follow. Where have you been? You don't know that there are 1,000 different flavors of Christianity in the world. I know you want your little talking point, your little sound bite, but it's just it's disgusting. But anyway, how did I get to there? In America, in particular, and this is something that I always balance within myself, because I've always been a staunch supporter of individual liberty, and I still am, even as a Christian. Hey, God gave you free will. That means you're free to reject Him, and you're free to do the thing that other people think are sinful, as long as it's not, causing sin or creating sin on somebody else. But there's also a temperament that needs to be tempered a little bit, especially once I converted to Catholicism. You do have responsibilities as a society as well to not cultivate a culture that leads people into sin all the time. So yeah, it's a fascinating topic. I forget the topic. I forget the point that was originally kind of pushing me over onto this, but I think, yeah, we need moral training. Yeah, people just don't have the train. Morality is now whatever you think seems right. And how does anybody think that's a logical way to be moral? Now, on some degree, yeah, you can't just accept what somebody else says is moral if it truly doesn't sit well with you in any way possible. I mean, I'm not going that far. Even in Catholicism, even in Catholic theology, there's the primacy of conscience, and things like that. But we're so far beyond that. We're just to the point where it's just whatever feels good. It really it goes to Satanism, right? Do what thou wilt is the extent of the law. I mean, that's really truly what the world we're living in now. It's scary. Studio Super, thanks for the super chat. Said lots of toxic empathy today. Kind of empathy that has you ignore evidence and reality, and empathy that doesn't do anything but make yourself feel good. Thus, people feel better through their situations. Yeah, I mean, an example is assisted suicide, right? Euthanasia. Look, they want to die in whatever extenuating circumstances. They want this. So why won't you be empathetic and help them to die? That's They want something that's bad for them, and it's okay to say that. It's okay to say that. Look, she wants to he wants to chop off his penis and be a woman. Why don't you help the little boy do that? That's insane. That's absolutely insane. It's bad for him. He's a child. He doesn't know any better. No. But yeah. Anyway, one more comment there. Leah Plus says woke hates morality. I always want to say mortality. Morality. They don't want you to have it. That's why I think they're killing aspirational heroes. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a good tie-in, because this individualized sense where no, it's just what I think is best. That does kill off aspirational heroes, because an aspirational hero is contingent on the idea that there's a shared group of values that a society has, and that aspirational hero is exhibiting the perfect levels of them. That's, and if you take that away, if everybody's their own little, this is why and again, no, I'm shaming Protestantism in general. Most of my family's Protestant, but the Protestant criticism of Catholicism, that's like, oh, you just do whatever a pope says. That's ridiculous. Once I just asked him a couple questions, it just turns right around to the fact that they're their own popes. They're mad that somebody else gets to be an arbiter of the law, or hold the keys to the kingdom. As to get it biblical, they want to do it. They want to be the pope. Everybody's their pope. It's like they're not really mad at the office of the pope. They're mad that they're not the pope. Is really what it comes down to. And so, yeah, whether it's Catholicism or whatever, there has to be some sort of shared system of values for a society, and wokeism does not have one. The extent of woke systemized values is do whatever thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. I mean, it's very satanic in that aspect. And they, of course, they'll claim that's not the case, but you look at it in practice, and it absolutely is the case. Yeah, AL says I'm Protestant and I have no issues with Catholics. Yeah, I mean, there are plenty of Sound Engraver. She's pretty darn close to being Catholic, but for a while, she'll even tell you now she would never call herself Protestant, because she's not protesting the Catholic Church. And there are plenty of Protestants who feel like that, and you just call them Protestants for lack of, I guess you could just say non-Catholic. There are plenty of non-Catholic Christians who feel that way. They don't believe in the Catholic Church, but they're not like, how dare you? But there are a lot of people who are, that's for sure. But yeah, I always use it as an example because it's from my own past, and it's my own history of thought and thinking and ethics, me going from a Protestant to a Catholic conversion. So it comes up a lot as examples when I talk about stuff. Geek Base said, I wish instead of gender studies, colleges would teach how to be a good person. Oh, they can't do that. We don't legislate morality. Oh, but by the way, make sure you can kill your baby and make sure that, gay rights, trans rights, and make sure that Black Lives Matter. That's morality. Stop trying to pretend you're otherwise. Studio Soup says, and there's evil that people argue are necessary. It's wrong, but it helps this person. As one of my heroes, Popeye, says, wrong is wrong, even if it helps you. It's very, very true. Very, very true. Yeah, it's insane how oh hey Big Al, good to see you there. It's insane. And my eyes have been open to it more and more and more over just the last couple years. If Israel is involved in any which way, the woke are against it. And it's really insane how that plays out. And I think it has to do with the underlying cultural Marxist, foundation of the wokeism that's in our world, in our country right now, is that anything that has to do with Western capitalism, that whole Western industrial complex, whatever, that's bad. And so if Israel is seen as being supported by the West, then Israel is bad. It's absurd. There's no logic to it whatsoever. Free Palestine, free Palestine. Was there any even remote celebration when Trump brought peace to it? You don't have to like Trump, but can you at least celebrate the fact that some peace was brought to that part, to whatever extent? I'm no expert on the region or anything, but you don't hear that. Is if Israel has anything to do with it, and it's to the point where you actually see anti-Semitism just on the streets of America, of the United States. It's gotten to that point. The ones who call us racist are the ones who are trying to support these schools and these campaigns and these bully tactics for the poor Jewish students. It's ridiculous. Anyway, let's see. Did I miss any? Oh, I got all the super chats there. Yeah. Oh no. Jason takes Middle Earth. That I heard a ridiculous comment about woke the other day. It had to do with the He-Man movie. Guy says, we know it will be woke, but the question is, will it be good? Well, that falls into like the whole thing. People say, look, I mean, it wasn't even that woke. It wasn't that woke, guys. No. Why is that an arbiter for whether it's watchable or not? Don't even get me started on the He-Man thing. I do not have the strength tonight to talk about how they're bastardizing my He-Man. Yeah, people just think, oh, it can still be good, even if what they're doing is they're acknowledging that this movie has an agenda. This movie is propaganda, and they're just hoping that there'll be some good parts within that propaganda. I have way more respect for myself and my time and my psyche than to sit through something that's mostly propaganda, but has some good stuff too. Why do you need new content that badly? There's something wrong with you. Studio Soups says, I remember you once said every society goes through a phase where they think they're too cool for school. They tear down all the rules, but something happens to where they snap back to their senses. Yeah, I was talking about the trickster. Culture, any culture, and it's just not just one phase. It's kind of it's a ebb and flow. A culture, a society finds structures that work for it, and that's good. These structures are working, but you never have to just cling to one structure 100% the exact way it is with no little changes whatsoever forever, right? Because times change, cultures change, technology changes. So you do need a little bit of time where the trickster questions things and blurs some boundaries here and there. And that's a good, healthy use of the trickster. It makes us question some ideas that maybe that is a little outdated by now or whatever. We question things a little bit, and then things adapt and the structure shifts and adapts to a little bit. You don't break it all the way down unless it's in terms of a revolution or something like that. But that's the healthy use of the trickster. What leftist ideology is embodying nothing but the trickster, and that's from the Marxist belief system of it's the oppressed against the oppressors. everything is the oppressed against the oppressors. So if you're taught that and that's drummed into your mind, all through school and your academic career and whatnot, then yeah, you are nothing but the trickster. That's that way you can tear down whatever's there and talk big about things you'd put in place of it, but it'll only matter of time before you want to tear that down too. But yeah, that's what I meant by that. Michael Schimbati flexing the membership there said, "Prof, do you like Daredevil, Miller, Bendis, Brubaker, and Punisher Max by Enos? I love the transgressive vibe." Max said, "Rotten." Never read Punisher Max. I do like Miller's Daredevil. I don't like Bendis. I've liked a thing or two I've read from him. I liked his Spider-Man, his Ultimate Spider-Man, for example, back in the day. He's got no business doing anything at DC. He doesn't understand DC at all, and he has no business doing anything with DC. I don't even know if he's still there. And yeah, of course, I like some things by Brubaker. Those are big, big terms, but yeah, I haven't read. A lot of people ask me about Marvel questions. Poor Birdman, soundtracks with Birdman. He's always asking me, "What this Marvel with it?" I was like, "Dude, I'm sorry, I'm just not a." It's not that I don't like Marvel. It's just that I didn't grow up with Marvel. I grew up with DC, and I've tried to get into and I've enjoyed a lot of what I've gotten into here and there of Marvel, but that's not my forte. So I'm not really. I don't know every reference that people ask me about. Studio Soups is like quoting me. "I can't talk about He-Man tonight. I don't have the strength." "Don't you mean you don't have the power?" "I always have the power." Gentle Savage, welcome. Says, or maybe I've already welcomed you, sorry. But first super chat from you. Said, "Prof, have you read any of the new indie comics being published by Jeff Johns at his new comics imprint?" No, I didn't even know about it, to be honest. Jeff Johns is he's an interesting case, and maybe his own comics are great. In fact, I would tend to suspect they would be. But it always bugs me when people either try to paint Jeff Johns as a garbage writer who can't do anything right, or the opposite, and he's our savior and he's always been the one fighting for us, because he's not either. He's done some amazing stuff in the past, and I dearly love some of the things he's done. But he's also right there implicit with the New 52 and with the some of the garbage changes they tried to do after Rebirth and stuff like that. I mean, he's part of it. He's part of it. So but I would imagine that if he's outside of anybody else's continuity doing his own thing, I'm intrigued by that. I'd actually like to see that. Michael Squire said, "Do you like the Daredevil and Punisher as character?" Yeah, I like the Daredevil more. Punisher's not really my guy. I don't have anything against him. He's that anti-hero and that's important. It's a catharsis in those type of anti-heroes that's important for society, but they're not my thing. I do like Daredevil when done well, because Daredevil's so fascinating. Just the layers of themes that fit so well together. I mean, he's a lawyer. He's also blind, so it's justice. Blind justice with the scales there. And yet he's a lawyer. Yet he goes out as a vigilante, which is somebody who goes outside the law, and he's trying. But as a vigilante, he's trying to exact justice that in the courtroom he wasn't able to enact, which is, basically what Batman does, but it's layered it's packaged in a very cool way with Daredevil. And when he's written well, that's pretty cool. Imagine if Hobby said, "Save our race, the Beatles or the Rolling Stones." So you're asking me I've got to pick one or the other? I'm not a huge fan of either. I like songs from either, obviously, and I'm not, I understand the importance both have been to our, to rock and roll history. I mean, a lot of the bands that I love wouldn't be here if either of those bands weren't there, obviously. But I'd probably have to go with the Rolling Stones. Especially as a bass player, I always thought, so many Stones songs have such cool bass lines, and I only recently learned that a lot of those cool bass lines that I love so much were actually played by Keith Richards, because Bill was off doing, whatever. He wasn't in the studio. And I always hate that. I hate that when years later you find out, oh, yeah, this musician didn't play that thing that they're billed for. Gene Simmons wasn't even playing bass on that song. It's Paul or it's somebody else. I hate that because I'm really into that. I'm really into looking at songs I like and finding out, okay, what musician played each instrument, and kind of comparing the evolution of their playing, and this and that. But Keith Richards, I mean, great guitarist of the Rolling Stones, actually played a lot of most of the bass lines that I really love from the Stones songs. It's kind of interesting to learn. Studio Soup says, I've been watching the Dirty Harry movies. Those movies are so relevant today with the issues we face. I've seen the first one way long ago, and that's the only one I saw. I need to go back and watch those because I love Clint Eastwood movies, and I remember loving the first one. Obviously, yeah, that's something on my list to check out eventually. Definitely. Jace Takes was not interested in Beatles. Never could be interested in them. Yeah, it's weird. It's like I'm thankful for them. I understand the new ground they broke. I understand the ways in which they influenced all the people I really do enjoy listening to. And I respect them and revere their music for that reason. But it's not something I put in to listen to just for fun. Like, it's nothing I want to enjoy listening to. Paul McCartney, wonderful bassist, insane bassist, great bassist. And a lot of people bassists I look to will say, I learned this thing that Paul McCartney was doing, and I'll learn it secondhand from them. I'm not interested in hearing Lady Madonna. It's not my jam. I don't want to hear Let It Be. It's not my jam. It's just not for me. And it's funny because the people that I do love to listen to, like Alice Cooper, freaking worship. I mean, not literally, but he loves the Beatles, and he'd probably be aghast at me saying such a thing. And yet I would look up to Alice Cooper, or, Aerosmith or something like that. So anyway, yeah, they did change a lot, AL. They changed, there are different eras of the Beatles, and some people like the early 60s, but not the 70s or whatever. I'm probably more interested in the early 60s Beatles too, because it felt more like a rock band. By the time they're in their 70s, they just felt like a studio project. They felt more like Steely Dan. And that's fine, but bill it is what it is. You got so many different musicians coming in, and your own musicians of the band aren't even playing their assigned roles half the time. You're not a band anymore. You're a studio project. Yeah. Darth Enigma for $5 said, many Marvel versus Supergirl. Oh, Mary Marvel versus Supergirl. Who wins? Answer, Mary Marvel. Yeah, I don't know enough about Mary Marvel. I mean, I know Shazam. I know Captain Marvel. But I don't know a lot about Mary Marvel, to be honest with you. But, I mean, her powers are just like Captain Marvel's, if they are analogous to that, to the extent that Supergirl's powers are as analogous to Superman's, then you're basically saying that Captain Marvel, Shazam, would beat Superman. Are you saying that too? Because I don't know about that. Even though strength-wise, power-wise, they might be pretty, balanced. I think Superman has the maturity for one, and all of the, but that doesn't necessarily come into play with two young girls, Supergirl and Mary Marvel. So I don't know. Interesting question. Imagine Javier says, save or erase, Tim Burton or Guillermo del Toro? Oh, I'll definitely pick Tim Burton, but I love Guillermo del Toro. Guillermo del Toro is great. I like a lot of his work. His Hellboy, his first original Hellboy, is still one of my top 5 favorite superhero films ever. But and of course he's done so many great things other than that. But Tim Burton's my guy, even though he fell into a place where he's just like the great standard of quality of Tim Burton movies. It's like, will we ever get that back? Probably not. But he's still done so much that just defined my childhood and my aesthetics and stuff like that. That I'm always going to pick Tim Burton there. Yeah, Alec produced like, why are you gonna make us decide on something like that? I know. All right, let me get this last super chat here, and then I want to share a couple things, and then we can just go back to hanging out and chatting like this. Studio Soup says, for also the manga versus comics debate has resparked lately. It's such an apples to oranges comparison, though. Comics today deserve all the crap they get. Oh yeah, definitely. One thing about manga, though, I wish, and I know this is just a dumb American who's not culturally blah, blah, blah. Some idiot will come up and call me racist for it. I wish manga wasn't I wish the medium of manga wasn't such a hurdle for people who are used to reading traditional American comics, because you got to read the book backwards, and there are always these short little books. And I'm sorry, I'm an old dude. My eyes aren't all that great anymore. And they're all in black and white too, and it's a pain in the butt. I wish, at least take that manga, all of those pages, and flip them over so I can turn the book the right way, America, and just make it easier for people who aren't used to that. I know all you weebs are like, oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I'm just saying that I think manga would get a lot more readerships if they made the medium, the physical medium of it, a little more reader friendly to American readers. Anyway, that's there. Mr. D-Man says manga's overrated. Sue me. I tend to agree with you, but I know there's wonderful manga out there. But just seeing the manga worshippers is a little bit like, and I like a lot of manga. I like a lot of anime, but people get way too crazy about it. Anyway. Oh, I produced it. Viz Media used to do that. Don't know why they quit. Is Viz Media a publishing company or just like somebody sold those? But that's cool. All right, let me share this real quick, and then I'll come back and get some of the super chats because can't talk and do this at the same time. Share the screen. There we go. So this is Doug Brody. Last time I was talking about Doug Brody's first book in the Shelley series and how that's on sale all this month. It still is on sale. $3.49 you see there to buy the digital, and even if you want the paperback, it's only $14.99. Hardcover is $30. That's typical, but there's an Audible version of it as well, which is great. Very, very well read and performed. But talking about that, this is Doug Brody's Amazon author page, and the reason I'm showing it to you is because he's got listed the third book in the Shelley series is coming out this summer. This released July 3rd, as it says there, and I want to show you something because I didn't mention it last time, but oops, didn't do that right. But I'll mention it this time here. Click on the book, Shelley Revolution, I guess. I don't know exactly how I was pronouncing that. But as you look down at he's got some really cool, ads for it and everything like that. And look at that. A perfectly paced thriller. Everything you loved about the first two books is here with surprising twists and turns that will keep you reading way past your bedtime. Professor Geek. That is my quote, my blurb for him, because he actually sent me the manuscript of Shelley Revolutions. He sent me the manuscript before he got it, before he put the final touch on it there. So I was really honored to have read it early because I freaking love the series. Now I did a very quick read, not a thorough read, because he actually kind of needed some information in a certain time about it, and I don't want to look at it again. I don't want to read it again until I've got the actual hard copy in my hands and read it that way. But you definitely will count on a good thorough review from me. I won't give you any details about it right now, obviously, but I will tell you that it truly, I mean, what I mean by say there in the blurb, I really do mean. And what I couldn't really fit into a blurb is this. You read a good series that you like, and you like spending time with the characters. I mean, characters are predominantly what gets you attracted to a series. Most of the time. I mean, they can have really cool things happening in the world and really cool setups, and that's all great. But what the characters, wanting to spend time with those characters because you like those characters, that's really what what draws you back to a series. And where a lot of series drop the ball is that they end up, the writers maybe they're bored. You see this in television series a lot. They want to do something new and different, and they've been trying to maintain this for so long. Now they just kind of want to break through the walls and do something different with the series. And sometimes that can be cool to whatever extent they do it, but a lot of times they do that to the extent where it's the expense of the characters. My example for that is the last season of Office, where the writers were like, we've been unallowed to touch the Jim and Pam marriage, and we just wanted to explore that now finally, and like, let's add some trouble to that marriage. Absolutely nobody wanted to see the Jim and Pam marriage have some trouble in it. I know that's very interesting to you as a writer. Oh, we haven't done that. We've been unallowed to do that. Screw you. Nobody wants to watch that crap. And there was very much a reason why that season was not as popular as the others. That's just one of many. But anyway, all that to say, this continuation of this series does everything right. These are the characters that you enjoy spending time with. You still get to spend time with them, but it's not just here's a serving of the same old thing. It also escalates the universe. It also complicates things in a proper way as a third book in a series should do. It continues to unfold a greater story of the world building, and also gives you everything you want out of the characters as well. Keeping their own continuities, because characters do develop. They are in a character progression, and the book does that perfectly. So anyway, um, Senator says, yeah, I think it's pronounced. That's why I say revolution. That's why revolution is how I would say it. But I didn't think to ask him, because we text back and forth, and he sent me the copy of it, hard copy. So I never really asked him, about the pronunciation there. I'm pretty sure it's probably revolution. I also found out that the audio, the Audible version of Shelley, like I said, really great, well read, well performed. That's on Audible, and the Audible version of Shelley Murder Mine, the second book, is actually coming this summer. I think August is what he said. So that's coming too, if you're just an Audible person. I know some of you guys are, but again, Shelley, the first book there for $3.49 is an e-read. I know if you're like me, you're not crazy about reading from a screen, but I mean, $3.49, you can at least read a little bit to see if you're, really dig the story or get hooked on it, and then you can order a hard copy if you want. But let me share one more tab, as long as we're on Amazon. I haven't shared this in a while. This is my own author page. Well, it looks nowhere near as cool as Doug Brody's, because I haven't done any work on it whatsoever. But has all of my short reads there. The Black Lace 101, Witch House, Backstage Bargain, Unboxing Anna, No Live Models, Girlfriend in the Basement. I've even got some of the Heroic Inspirations repurposed as a little mini e-read. I don't think you can get the hard copy, actual book copy of Heroic Inspirations anymore, because the publisher went out of business in COVID. I've got the rights to the content of the book like that, so I'll revamp it and re-release it somewhere, somehow, at some point. But there's some compilations I've been a part of and whatnot. And look at that. Customers who also bought items by M.J. McKenzie. Wonder who that really cool sci-fi author is who some reason doesn't want to use her married name. I can't imagine who that would be. These short reads that I've been releasing last year, I write tales. I write, in the Edgar Allan Poe tradition, short tales, and they're designed to give an effect. It's not a long involved plot. It's like a Tales from the Dark Side, or like a Twilight Zone, or like a an anthology series kind of thing. That's supposed to be the punch that it gives you. That's what I aim for anyway. And I was going to keep releasing these, but they didn't do as well. And a lot of people were telling me, now part of it is because I just don't market. I'm a horrible marketer, and I just don't do it. But a lot of people were telling me that's really cool, that's really interesting. I'm looking forward to reading it, but I'll wait until you release it as an actual hardcover book. And so I thought, well, instead of releasing the last like 3 that I have or whatever, let me just work on. There's one story that I'm still trying to tweak a couple things on, and then I'll just try to release it as a hard copy book, just through Amazon, just probably just direct publishing on Amazon there or whatever. So that's coming around. All of these stories have been slaving over for so many years. They've been looked over by short story experts, publishers, writers, and I'm really confident with them for what they are. You don't go into them expecting a traditional like science fiction short story that's a little bit longer and has a little bit more involved plot or whatever. These are tales, like I said, that they really are like a Tales from the Dark Side or Outer Limits kind of idea. So anyway, that's that. I'll stop sharing now, and we'll get back to the chat. Sorry, babe, I'm using my married name for something else. That's right. Yeah, I think it's for music and whatnot. She did find out, though. Poor Soundgraver found out that M.J. McKenzie was also the name of like this bodice ripper romance author or whatever. So. All right, there's a super chat I'd missed back there before I got to Sound Engravers, or a couple actually. Oh, the Imaginative Hobbyist doing his Save or Erase, Seinfeld or Friends. That's hard. I'm not I wouldn't really sit down and binge watch either of those shows. I know Fan Man will hate me because I'm not choosing Seinfeld immediately, but neither of those shows are like binge worthy for me. They're really funny. They're really well written. Binge worthy shows like that for me are Everyone Loves Raymond, our King of Queens. That's a binge worthy show for me. I can sit down and watch those just over and over and over again. Freaking love them. Seinfeld's hilarious because of the situations and the comedy and the smart writing, but the humor is predicated on the fact that you don't really want to hang out with any of these individuals. They're not great people, you know. And they played on that maybe a bit too much in the finale of the season or the series, but they're funny to watch. It makes for great humor, but I don't like to sit with that humor too long. And Friends is maybe a little bit better. Maybe people you could hang out with a little bit to an extent, but I don't know. Both good shows. I don't really have a one or the other. Studio Soup says, "Ooh, speaking of directors, I found out after Tim Burton, we missed out on having a Sam Raimi directed Batman film. They just ignored it. Our biggest missed opportunity." That's interesting. I know there are a lot of like could have been, might have been, almost was, Batman and Superman and DC movies and like that back in the day. But yeah, to find out some interesting things about that, you wonder what a Sam Raimi Batman film would have been like. I don't know. Interesting. All right. Let's scroll down to see what I missed there. Darth Enigma, thank you so much for the super chat. Said I could be wrong, but I think manga being read backwards is because kanji Japanese characters are derived from Hanzi Chinese characters, which are commonly written vertically from left to right. Yeah, I mean, I know it's a cultural thing. I know that's not just their comic books. Obviously, that's the way their text goes, I think. I'm no expert. It's like when it comes to mythology, I'm Western mythology is what have always studied. So Eastern mythology and Eastern culture, I find it fascinating. It's interesting. I always like to learn a little bit more here and there. But yeah, I thought everything was just read, left to right, so that's why I thought it was like that. But again, if you're going to publish it in the United States, just how hard is it? How hard is it to flip it around? I mean, think of how many more readers they could gain, because manga in the United States and even anime for a long time, anime is becoming a little more accessible to more people, but it's kind of sold as this sort of niche thing, like, oh, you want to read some manga? It's all going to be this same sort of character styles, and it goes in their short little books, and they're weird books to even open and hold flat. So you can, like, for me anyway, I hate that. And and you open them and you read them backwards, and like, how many more sales would they get if they just flip it around? God forbid, print it in color. Heaven forbid, we can't do that. But I bet you would sell, like, My Hero Academia or Naruto, you would sell a ton of those to way more kids if you just sell it like a traditional book. Try it out even, I don't see what the problem is. Michael Skimbody said, "Prof, why are people gushing over Absolute Batman? Can we ever get basic, plain Jane, Batman noir, pulp art, deco, detective, battling psychos, mobsters?" Well, no, they think that's boring. DC thinks anything they sell should be in the image of Batman. So in order to keep that as their rule, they can't make Batman just look like one little thing. They have to keep stretching it out like this and like that and make it a little bit more like this. And in this run, this White Knight or whatever is going to be a little bit different like this or this. And enough with Batman. If it's not just good old Batman, I'm really not interested in it. And but people keep buying it because people are simps. Rydia Merchant, welcome. Member for 7 months. So, do you have any copies of Tales of the Stacks? I still ordered one, never reached. If you never received it, you got to email me. That's the reason that I never did another campaign, because, and I've got your email, Rydia Merchant. So yeah, people email me. It hasn't happened for a long, long time now, but people were emailing me left and right saying never received. So I would have to, ship it out. Shipping just was a I don't want to use profanity, but a cluster F. It's like something that some people had me get into this one thing and really kind of leaned on me to do it this one way, but then it just all fell to me to do it, and I don't have the organizational skills to do it that way, so it just all kind of fell apart. To my knowledge, is like as far as my bookkeeping goes, everybody had received theirs, and I know that's not the case, which is why I never did another campaign. And yeah, people, if you didn't receive one, just drop me an email. I do have your email, so we'll touch base, and I'll make sure you get your copy. Because I had extras printed out just for that case, just for the okay, well, you know, somebody's going to say, somebody's going to need this or whatever. So yeah, just shoot me an email. And it's all, of course, through the website. I can see that you actually did, order it and everything. So you have to give me your backer number, I think is what you have to do. It's been a while since this has come up, since anybody has said they hadn't received it. But yeah, thanks for asking though. Appreciate that. Yeah, I'm still proud of the work I did on it. So proud of the way it came out. Studio Soups for $9.99 said, I do lean more to comics. I always found them more accessible. Manga, you start at chapter 1. Where do you even start with comics? Start with what looks cool and interesting. That's simple. I do wish comic runs in like story arcs of a comic in a certain era or by a certain author was more easily accessible or easy to find out. I know that they're not going to put every single comic run ever into a trade paperback. I get that, but it is hard. Like when I was doing, and I need to get back to it because I was having fun doing it. But when I was reading as much of the DC universe post crisis, like in the '80s, starting with the John Byrne Superman, going from there as I could, it's really hard sometimes to you're just basing you're having to search a lot of Reddit posts and whatnot of just fans trying to put this in. That one came first, but then that one was there, and then it's like you're freaking DC Comics. You can't put together an atlas for this kind of stuff, and really guide people through it. But they don't care. They don't care about what they got. So it's a good point. Alec Purdue. No colored manga. Those artists have to deal with enough pressure as is. Colored would work them to death. I'm not saying that manga as published in Japan needs to be in color. If they want to keep doing it the way they do it, great. I'm saying if you got a closed series like Naruto or My Hero Academia, to use the examples I gave before, and you want to try to gain new readers in America, publish like the first chapter or two in a book from right to left in color, and I bet you gain a lot of new readers, and it'd be worth it to put out the next ones in color or whatever. But yeah, I don't pretend to know the reasons in Japan why they're not, in color or whatever. I'm sure they're valid. They have to come out. I think it's like a weekly thing or something too, or whatever. But yeah, so, but I would read it a lot more if it was in color because I don't like reading black and white comics. I know and I have great black and white comics. My own comic that I put out was in black and white, but especially something about the manga style of characters and everything. I really need the color there to help me differentiate what's what in the panel. Maybe that's just my eyes and my readership. But Imagine if Hobbyists, another save or erase. He-Man, Masters of the Universe, or Thundercats. All right, love both, but if I had to choose one, of course it's He-Man, Masters of the Universe. As much as I love Thundercats, I've talked about this before, even the classic Thundercats cartoon really lost the plot before it was over with. If I ever watch it again, I'll pretty much just stop watching once they bring about New Thundera. I think that's just the dumbest idea. It was never really logically explained how New Thundera came about. It was just some timey-wimey thing that Mumra did. The basis of the series is so excellent. It's so great. You've got them trying to make Third Earth their new home now, and they're dealing with the groups that are there already, and that's where Mumra is, and everything, and fine. And I don't mind the new Thundercats coming about. I don't mind Pumra, or not Pumra, Bengali, and I forget the Puma girl's name. I keep wanting to say Pumra, but that was Mumra when he was pretending to be a Thundercat. Anyway, I don't mind that. I don't even mind the Lunatics. They're fine if you want to create it, throw in a different kind of enemy in the mix instead of just the mutants or Munra. That's fine. But once they started splitting their time between New Thundera and Third Earth, I checked out. I mean, I've watched the whole season, but I'm just not interested in that. It's boring to me. You don't have the whole group together at any one time anymore. Just no. So as much as I dearly love Thundercats, I think just as a series, as a cartoon series whole, He-Man was much cooler. And you might say, well, yeah, but He-Man wasn't as much of it was more episodic and wasn't as much of a overall story to be told, trajectory of attorney or something. Well, yeah, but it has more staying power that way. Studio Soups for $9.99 says, but manga is better because they only have one writer. Yeah, if characters like Superman or Spider-Man ended then their writers left, they never would have become the icons we know. That's very true. That's very true. I mean, on the one hand, I can see how it's, thank goodness we don't have some deconstructionist writer trying to come and write, Demon Slayer or something like that. But I don't know how it is in Japanese culture, but I can't imagine Deku or Tanjiro or something like that becoming the icons that Superman or Spider-Man are decades upon decades from now. Geek Bay says or Geek Buy, I think I was saying buy. I have the volumes, but floppies are the best. Um the volume. Oh, you mean the big? Oh, yeah, yeah, the big trade paperbacks versus the. Yeah, I love. I mean, trade paperbacks are great, and I get pick up trade paperbacks whenever I can of stories that I really enjoy. But it's so magical reading an old comic issue and looking at the ads that were in the comic back in that day. Like that's what I love so much about the Dark Knight, Tales of the Dark Knight. When I was going through and rereading those from the start, like that was us. I was seeing like ads for Def Leppard's Adrenalize album in there. I'm like, yes, I remember these. These are great. So yeah, Pumira, thank you. It's not Pumra, it's Pumira. Thank you, Dale. Nathaniel Slowsball says, in the event you decide to relaunch your heroic aspiration book, do you plan on replacing Miss Mar? Oh heck yes. Oh heck yes. There were a couple chapters in there that the publisher kind of strong armed me into putting in there because they weren't necessarily woke, but they were just. And this was also before like the hashtag Me Too movement. It was before the woke went completely bat crap crazy, in culture. And they were looking at, okay, how to make this, appeal to the most wide, demographic or whatever. Do you have a character? Do you have a chapter on a black character? Do you have a character or a chapter on this character? And, make sure you do Kamala, Khan or whatever, because, and so, um, yeah, I wouldn't even put those characters in. At the time, I wasn't a Marvel reader, so I didn't even know it was before we knew all the things we knew about Kamala Khan and how she was going to be pushed in the Marvel universe. Because I did the very first origin story of her, which was decent enough, fine, whatever. But it was before all of that really just kind of like exploded. So yeah, there'd be plenty of chapters I'd leave out, and other chapters I'd have to substitute in or write anew just to put in. One chapter I would keep in is I did Falcon um, as Falcon. And the cool thing about Falcon was the little lesson I was teaching was how he was so secure in who he was that he could even stand shoulder to shoulder with Captain America and not feel unworthy or self-conscious or whatever, because he was true to who he was. He was true to Captain America as a friend. And the woke world took a crap all over that concept. He needs to be Captain America now too. It's just, so yeah. Studio Soups says, I like colored stuff better too, though I'm going to be a hypocrite with my comics. I'm looking better to make simply because I just don't have the time to color the material. Black and white comics are great if you do them, if you, this is the problem with manga and black and white. I get it, time constraints, the time, whatever, fine. But there's nothing about the art in a manga book that suggests it should be in black and white. Now you look at something like Batman Noir or not Batman Noir, like the Daredevil Noir and Spider-Man Noir and stuff like that, where they're actually using light and shadows in really cool ways, and like they're embracing the fact that this is a black and white comic to really embrace the medium. It's like watching a black and white movie. I'd never want to read, you know, Luke Cage Noir or whatever as a colorized version, just as I'd never want to watch a colorized version of a black and white movie, because they're embracing the black and white medium. It seems to me, and I'm no expert on manga. I'm sure there's some manga out there that works great in black and white, but for the most part, manga is black and white because it's just a time constraint, or the artists don't have the time or the whatever to get it all, in color, and that's my problem with it. If it could be in color, it's just not. I'd rather have it in color. If it's black and white on purpose and it's embracing the black and white medium, then I'm fine with that. Yeah, Sin City. Yeah, Oha's talking about Sin City, for example. Yeah. Um, yeah, definitely. All right, gonna be checking out in just a little bit here, but Rogue Disciple says, "How's the EU collection coming along?" Good. I haven't added to it in a long time. It was about a year ago, I think, since I added my last my last let me get that off. There we go. My last addition to the EU collection. But as you see, it's still there behind me, and it's quite. And I'm proud of it. But yeah, I still have some things I want to get. So yeah, I need to return to that. Maybe I'm trying to get some more work for the summer because I'm an adjunct professor as my main job, and most it can vary somewhat in terms of the region, but most adjuncts are hired for fall and spring semesters. They typically don't hire adjuncts for summer semester classes because they have the faculty, actual faculty member there, contract obligations, contractually obligated to teach some. So they throw summer classes at them. So it's hard to get summer work as an adjunct professor. So traditionally, for the longest time, I've worked fall and spring as an adjunct, and then the summer, I do tutor. I tutor online year round, and that stays. And I do some, when I have time, particularly over the summer, I'll do some manuscript editing and stuff like that. But I need to find something a little more steady this summer, and it could be another online teaching gig. The online teaching universities tend to be pretty crappy to work for, though. So I don't know, something like that. But summer would be a time that I could turn my attention to it a little bit more as long as the funds are there, right? I'm a long ways away from procuring any like really high priced item, but there are plenty of things that I just need to grab that I could get for anywhere from 20 to 40 bucks. So yeah, need to go back to that. Thanks for reminding me about it though. I am going to go back to reading the EU again. I was kind of doing a seasonal thing and I stopped for a bit last year going to some different things, but yeah, I'm ready to jump back in. There's some wonderful reads that I've just been holding out because I'm doing kind of in order. So excited to get back to that. Studio Soup says manga does for it weekly. Japan has an extremely strict work ethic. Yeah, I know about that. ODA, and the maker of One Piece, gave himself diabetes from how dedicated his work he got. Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine, definitely. Geek By says Scott Snyder and Grant Morrison are overrated. Absolutely agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. I don't much care for Scott Snyder at all, to be totally honest. I'm not saying he's never written anything good. I'm sure I could think of something or find something. Oh, I actually kind of like that or whatever. But more often than not, if Scott Snyder's name on it, I think it's overblown. It's you know, that man must just like sit around rubbing his nipples thinking about robotic suits for people to be in. He's so over. It's just I really don't care for Scott Snyder's writing overall. Grant Morrison, as I've said before, is an amazing idea man. He's really not very good at developing a story and putting all those ideas into a logical, well developed, you know, good progression of events. They tend to just be, and now pretend that this happened. And now what if pretend that that happened too? And now pretend that this happened after that happened. It's just like, what? Where are we? And sometimes the idea is so good that it carries it through, and you're like, whatever. I mean, it's All Star Superman. It's pretty darn cool. But more often than not, he's yeah, he's an idea guy. I definitely don't get excited just because his name is on something. That's for sure. Darth Enigma says I finally got the Yuzon Vong trilogy. Oh, cool. Star Wars EU. I also got the 3 books in the Expanse series recently. Cool. Yeah, I haven't gotten up to the Yuzong Vong trilogy yet. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I don't think I've. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I wonder if I've ever heard anybody say it out loud. But anyway, and I've got it. So I'm excited about reading it. But I'm just kind of a stickler of going in order. With that. For the most point, I do jump around a little bit with the EU. But for the most part, I like to kind of keep it somewhat in order. I think where I stopped last time was John Jackson Miller. Freaking love his work. Love his work. And so Knight Errant. I was getting ready to read Knight Errant and really excited about because John Jackson Miller. I just love his work. And I really don't like the main character. I forget the character's name right now, but the Jedi girl, I'm really not crazy about her character. She's kind of annoying to me. And I read the first graphic novel, and then I think the book novel comes next, and then the other 2 graphic novels in terms of continuity wise. And I never really got all the way through the novel. I keep hoping she gets a little bit more palatable, but she's just not somebody I'm really enjoying rooting for or sticking around and hanging out with. but maybe it'll change if I just kind of plow through it. So Geek By said, off topic, but weather is terrible. 9 degrees and heaters are broken. Oh man, your heater's broken, man. Stay warm, man. That's horrible. Yeah, that's I don't envy you that. Yeah, thank goodness we haven't lost power through all these storms. They That's really nice to stay warm in there. But yeah, it's horrible, man. I hope pray you get some good insulation going there. Get some warmth. Rydia Merchant says, I recommend Proof's editing services. He is great. Yeah, I've worked with Rydia Merchant. In fact, you'll have to let me know, Rydia, if I ever owe you anything, because Rydia is so sweet and so patient. And it'll be like months later, and she'll, I finally realize that I never gave her back this one thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know how absent-minded I am. You gotta let me know. I'm just so sorry. But yeah, I've worked with her on a number of chapters from her novel, which is really intriguing. So I look forward to seeing what she's going to do with that. All right. Well, we are 8 minutes over my hour limit. No, that's fine. Really had fun chatting with you guys. I knew it would kind of end up being like this. I wanted to share, the stuff about the Doug Brody's coming up works, and I wanted to talk about my, what I'm doing with those short reads. But then I figured we would just chat like this back and forth. And it's been really fun. So appreciate that. If I ever have another week where I don't really have a big topic, we'll just do this again. But always fun hanging out with you guys. But you know me, I am the ultimate introvert, and after about an hour, I am spent. So so I'm gonna catch this last super chat here, and then probably bid you a fond adieu until next week. Studio Soup says, also I got Jim Ballantyne's Jim Ballan's Catwoman books, arguably one of the Catwoman's most popular eras, despite the usual suspects scream about. Yeah, I haven't read all of those, but they're great. I need to get. There's one kind of one, like a holy grail book that I need to get, which isn't even, I think, all that crazy expensive to buy. I just keep forgetting. But the Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale Catwoman book, I forgot what it's called, but it's what she did in Europe that's referenced in Batman: The Long Halloween. I need to get that. That's kind of one of my must reads. So yeah, she's a great character. All right, folks. Well, I had a great time hanging out with you. I hope you guys have a good night and a good weekend and a great week. Everything's going well for you. I'll have some cutouts of videos. I kind of missed doing that last week, but I'll do some more of that coming up this week. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.